What's so special about college football, these bowl games are so full of tradition and are so full of pageantry and are so representative of the American experience, right? The Rose Bowl used to be the Pac-12 and the Big
Right.
Ten would meet each other. The West Coast would meet the Midwest, right? And now, obviously, it's become a quarterfinal where there's going to be other regions, other schools that are going to get the opportunity to participate in the Rose Bowl in a way that they otherwise wouldn't have. So you see this photo, and it does memorialize those experiences for those families and those generations that went to that particular game. But it can also give you the feeling of going to any game that you've seen a flyover at, right? It's the military, it's aviation, it's college football. It's just this beautiful blend of a very particular American experience.
It is. And you know what's fascinating is the pilots. They are so, especially with this particular game, this is the most of the whole year. They all want to fly over the Rose Bowl.
Is that much of it? That's not much of a change for you, right?
My name is Carey Kight. I used to load bombs in the Air Force, and now I'm a writer, a filmmaker, and an entrepreneur. Through using the post-9/11 GI Bill to go to college, working hourly jobs to pay the bills, and freelancing my way into a career, I've studied what it takes to successfully transition from service to civilian, and that study has become a conversation. On this podcast, I speak to other veterans, successful artists and entrepreneurs about their transition, what they did well, where they failed, what they learned, and most importantly, how they applied their skills.
Episode 129 features Mark Holtzman, an aerial photographer based in Los Angeles who has captured iconic images of military flyovers at the Rose Bowl for over 15 years.
Welcome. This is Veteran Made.
Our merch store is live at store.veteranmadeproductions.com. Grab hats, t-shirts, and hoodies in both performance and tri-blend cotton fabrics. Use code VM-5OFF for 5% off your purchase. Veteran Made is also sponsored by GoPills, a military-grade nootropic that contributes to brain health over time. Use code VM15 at checkout for 15% off. I get my collagen protein from Bub's Naturals, where you can use code VETERANMADE, all one word, at checkout for 20% off your order. We're also proud to partner with True Made Foods, which makes condiments free from added sugar and sweetened with real foods. Use code VET at checkout for 15% off. And lastly, I end my day with Rack Out from Bravo Actual to maintain quality sleep, resulting in a well-rested body and mind. Use code VETERANMADE with a space between the words at checkout for 15% off your order. Enjoy the episode.
All right, so we're live now. So yeah, Marcus, we were just talking. You're out in California. I'm here in Ohio and grew up in North County and spent a good amount of time in Los Angeles. And I think it's probably appropriate and apt that we open the conversation talking about what you were able to see yesterday in the air as you were flying.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Coming down the coast, I started further north. I could only go one direction and stay offshore, so I wouldn't get in the restricted area. And the coast looked fine until you got a little past Malibu, and then all of a sudden the beach houses went away. They're just burned to nothing left. And then we got to the development areas and all, and I've never seen anything like it, where the whole area is just flat. There's a couple chimneys sticking up, but in the past when I've seen some of these, I've seen the roofs are still there. The roofs in the Woolsey fire, I remember seeing the roofs fall straight down, but you could see the outline of the roof. You just had nothing underneath it. There's just nothing, just literally just dirt or debris.
Yeah, it's wild having been on X for the last week or so, and Instagram and TikTok and all of those content platforms that we get our news from now, right? Our on the ground and in the air news, so to speak. It feels disrespectful, but me being a filmmaker and that being one of the lenses through which I view the world, I just can't help but see all these disaster movies, that we've watched over the years, and all these post-apocalyptic films that we've seen over the years. I mean, that's just what it looks like, and it's so bizarre and so sad, and just the amount of and kind of emotions that I feel looking at that footage and seeing all that stuff from afar, now being in the Midwest, not being on the West Coast anymore, but having spent so much time out there. It's a bizarre set of feelings and thoughts.
Yeah, it is. It's just overwhelming because there's just so much of it. It does look like a Hollywood set, but it's not. And there's all these poor people, that are just homeless.
Yeah. And there's more people than just the wealthy out there, right, in California, which I think a lot of people. I've seen a few folks post some things here and there today, reminding people that it's not just Malibu and the Palisades and all the rich folks that are out there, but it's everybody. Every kind of person lives in the areas that are affected, and even the folks whose homes haven't burned down, but air safety is an issue, quality, breathing quality is an issue, and all these things. It's just, California at large and Los Angeles County in particular is, there's a wide range of people living there and suffering.
Yeah, there's been people there for years, just working class people, nothing, but they've stayed in that area. The area got more expensive, but it's still them. It's their houses, and they've got nothing now. Now, where do they go? In fact, this city, as you know, is a shortage of housing. How do you throw 1,000 people out there? Where do they go?
Right. Yeah. It's terribly sad. And obviously we're here to talk about some other things, but didn't feel appropriate to completely skip over what is happening in real time as we have this conversation and you being out there. So Mark Holtzman, welcome to Veteran Made.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you're not a military veteran, but you have ties to the military community through the story that we'll talk about today, and it's why I reached out to you. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye fan. I went to Ohio State. I live 7 minutes down the road from the university, and so obviously my eyes were glued to the television, watching the Rose Bowl last week. Got to watch the Buckeyes win the Cotton Bowl last night, which is great. And this episode will go live the day after the national championship. So I'm wearing my Buckeye T-shirt, hoping that we will have been victorious once again. But obviously, as I watch these games, I'm constantly on X, looking at all the different accounts, fan accounts, and different things. And I kept seeing this photo of the B-2 bomber flying over the Rose Bowl, and everybody throwing the photo out saying that, this is America at its best, the most American photo I've ever seen, right? The Rose Bowl is the granddaddy of them all, one of the great sporting events in the world, frankly. And Ohio State has had a chance to play there over the years. So I reposted your photo on my Instagram story. I tagged your Instagram account, and either you or somebody from your team who runs the account responded and said thank you. And I liked that. And then I saw an X post from somebody else later in the week, or the next week rather, last week, describing the process and what you do and how you do it and kind of how you got involved. And I reached back out on Instagram and said, hey man, can you come on and talk about this? And he said yes. And then we had a brief phone call. You told me some other things. I said, let's save it for the recording. So that's a little bit of context for the audience. But would love to just start with a brief primer on who you are and how you got into aerial photography briefly, and then we'll jump into your stories here about working with the flyovers.
Okay, well, I'm Mark Holtzman. I grew up in California and Los Angeles. Haven't really moved much from where I am. I was in a whole bunch of different things growing up. I grew up playing the trumpet with music. I got my pilot's license at 17, but I grew up taking pictures with my dad when we were real little. We had a dark room, so I was always taking pictures. When I got my pilot's license, I was, you always take a camera when you go on flying. At least nowadays you have your phone, but that doesn't count. So I was always taking pictures. I got into the lifeguards, and I became, you have to go through paramedics, you have to go through EMT school. So then I became a paramedic because I really enjoyed that. Work for the studios as a first aid person. So my life has been all over the place. Just kind of throw that out. 17, I got my license. I started flying. I got married, had a couple kids. So I traded a small plane for a bigger plane, which is the one I still have. And basically, after all this other stuff, I wanted to go out on my own. I was working for a business, and my wife informed me that, this plane costs us a lot of money. Unless it can make some money, sell it. And so for some reason, after a couple of glasses of wine or so, I decided to become an aerial photographer. Now, no thought went into this at all. I had never heard of aerial photography, didn't know anything about it. I was in sales. I started selling. All of a sudden, I started getting jobs, and I started taking pictures of real estate is what you normally would do. And a lot more difficult back then because it was film cameras. You didn't know what you had till the day after. Finding the site, it was a Thomas guide, go figure that, to try to find anything. So that evolved, and everything evolved. Moving forward, I quit my other job. I started doing this full time, and I went over the one New Year's Day, decided to go over the game, and since I was a trumpet player, see what the bands looked like. And that was my whole thing, was to go get pictures of the formations because I thought it'd be cool. We stayed around. We heard there was a flyover. Didn't really know anything about it from there. Stayed around, and when it came over, somehow I got it in a good spot. I caught it. It's hard not to see them, and it was all blind luck on this, 100%. And my son sent it over to the Sports Illustrated and said, "This is a good picture. Put it on the front page." And they
Yeah.
didn't, but they put it on the two-page spread. And that went pretty viral back then. That was Sports Illustrated was the magazine. And
Right.
from there, he sent it to World Press Photo. Now, I didn't know what World Press Photo is. There's three big photojournalist photos. That Picture of the Year International and the Pulitzer. Those are the three. And I came in second out of 100,000 people. And I
Wow.
didn't know anything about it, but I did learn. I guess I'm getting off a little bit, but I did learn. I went to Amsterdam for the award ceremony, and here I was talking about a picture of a football game flyover, uh, and all these other people were, in bed in Afghanistan at the time, and all these things, and to get their picture, and I felt kind of embarrassed, really. I got an award for something not compared to what they were doing. But it opened my eyes up a lot. And then what else happened was I started getting emails, hundreds of them, and you put tears in your eyes. They're saying this memorialized my time with my grandfather and and this grandson at the game together, or the whole family's together, 2-3 generations of families together. And it was like, pictures are powerful. So that got me going. And then every year I've been trying to see what I get. For some reason, that was the playoffs. That was the championships at the time. Now it's a quarterfinal. But a lot of people really like this. It's just to show them. It memorializes the time they had that day. They hear the bomber. I don't hear it. They hear it going over. And I think when you see the picture afterwards, you can still relive that sound.
Yeah. Well, I think what's particularly cool about it is I've been lucky. I've been to the Rose Bowl game. I have family members who've been to multiple Rose Bowl games. But I've been to a lot of football games where there are flyovers, right? And you see that photo, and it is so representative, of the country, of the tradition, of the pageantry, right? You mentioned being a trumpet player and, and being a private aviator, right? My wife played trumpet in high school. My grandfather flew in the Army Air Corps and the Civil Air Patrol here in the state of Ohio, and flew my dad and his 4 siblings, in his
great.
plane for family vacations back in the day, right? So I've heard all these stories about flying in these planes, and then you mentioned the band, right? Ohio State's band is Tibiddle, the best damn band in the land, right? And so, yeah, and so it was actually a cool viral moment last night. Matthew McConaughey obviously is a University of Texas grad and professor and a big supporter of that program. And there was a video that went viral of him on the sidelines last night giving fist bumps to all the Ohio State band members as they exited the field from their performance. And what's so special about college football, even as the game evolves into a more professionalized version of a league, so to speak, with first round of playoffs and quarterfinals and semifinals and a championship game. These bowl games are so full of tradition and are so full of pageantry and are so representative of the American experience, right? The Rose Bowl used to be the Pac-12 and the Big Ten would meet each other. The West Coast would meet the Midwest, right? And now, obviously, that happens this past year, but more out of luck than anything, because now it's become a quarterfinal in this game where there's going to be other regions, other schools that are going to get the opportunity to participate in the Rose Bowl in a way that they otherwise wouldn't have. And being a fan of the game, there's there's an element of it, of the tradition that I want to hold on to, right? Like that's the Pac-10 versus the Big Ten. But really, I love college football, and I love the opportunity for all these different schools to experience this particular thing. So you see this photo, and now the series of photos that are on your website, which we'll obviously share here as a part of the video. It does memorialize those experiences for those families and those generations that went to that particular game. But it can also give you the feeling of going to any game that you've seen a flyover at, right? And it's just this blend of Americana, right? It's the military, it's aviation, it's American football, it's college football, amateur football, right? And it's just this beautiful blend of a very particular American experience.
It is, and you know what's fascinating is the pilots. They are so, especially with this particular game. I went out to see them at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, and this is the most of the whole year. They all want to fly over the Rose Bowl. They fly over other ones, but the Rose Bowl, they're going to fly 14-hour day. They're doing numerous refuelings, or well, not numerous, probably a couple, and they fly all over the place just to get over the parade and the game, and it's really the game. And
Yeah.
it's just, I couldn't believe the excitement on them when I was there, and it was like, yeah, we're going this year. We want to go.
Yeah. So I want to get to that experience of you going out to Whiteman and where you're at now in that process. But take us back. What year was it, that first year that you did that? 2009. And what kind of permissions did you get, or did you need to get to fly, in that area and get that photo that you just wanted to get, that you weren't necessarily?
There was an area you had to stay above, a restricted area called a TFR. And I don't even think that was even as strong as it is now, but it was there. Otherwise, you didn't really even have to talk to anybody. I hate to say this because I don't want people going over the games, because it can be dangerous when there's multiple planes around. Sure. And it's already starting to get a little busier at times. But it was pretty, you had to stay your altitude. But other than that, you didn't have to even talk to anybody. And it was just, like I said, pretty much luck. Now it's progressed now where there is a TFR. There's multiple planes at different areas. The FBI is always flying over. The NSA is flying over. The police with helicopters are over, and there's always the blimp in the middle of it all. Right. So it gets crowded. So we're on discrete frequencies. Plus, I'm talking to the regular TRACON, the FAA. But they know I'm there, and everybody's announcing where they are, so keep it safe. Everybody's at different altitudes. So
after that first experience and after winning that award, what was the process like for you to make this a regular thing that you wanted to perform or accomplish?
Well, it was a challenge to get the picture. How do I get the picture? Because it wasn't like you read it in a book. You do this and that. The whole area of photography is just kind of made up in a lot of ways. So it was to go back and get it again. And it felt really well, really nice when people, they're complimenting you on the picture, but the picture meant something. And that was something that I had never experienced before. So that was a reason to go back up, plus to get the bands, and because little Timmy's on the field. You think their parents would want it, picture of them, and he's on the field, and he's in the parade. So I started to go back every year for that, I guess, the main reason. I sell pictures. If it's a good picture, I can sell it, depending on the team. But it's not really that. And now it's actually moved into, I do it for the pilots. The pilots want it, and they call me up a week before, making sure I'm going to be there. Nothing like a little pressure on you. It's everything happens so quickly. They've got to be on their target. I've got to be on mine. We're flying, they're flying 250 miles an hour one way. I'm flying 100 miles an hour the opposite way because I have to see them. And at the last minute, I turn. And if they're on and I'm on, it works. But it's really a challenge.
So how did you develop that relationship with the Air Force and get in touch with those pilots? Like how many of these flyovers did you do before you got in touch with the Air Force or with the unit? Like walk us through that relationship building process. How did that go?
Once I got the pictures, we put it out there. Well, this was before the really getting it out there, but I did send them. I sent the pilots and the Air Force and pictures so they could see what it was. And the response I got was good. And then all of a sudden I started getting, are you going to be there, this coming in 3 weeks? Are you going to be
Yeah.
there? Because we'd like a picture of us, basically. And so we
Yeah.
developed a relationship. And one guy, the guy in 2009, he did it again in 2015, and he did it again in 2018, I think it was. He's the only guy that did it 3 times. But we became friends. I haven't met him yet, but we've talked all the time, throughout the year. And
Yeah.
going off a little, the 18th, the year was his last flyover. He's retiring from the military. He wanted that picture, and we got up there, and it was like conditions not quite as bad as the last couple of days. The winds were blowing, a lot of turbulence. In fact, he even said it was one of the worst turbulence he got in a B-2. And I was getting
Wow.
kicked around a lot in the winds and trying to get the picture. I was really motivated to get that picture. And the wind closed
Yeah.
my window at the time. I was just taking the picture. Somehow I kicked it open with my left hand and I took the picture, and I got one picture, and it worked.
Wow.
But it was like, there is a challenge. There's, you feel obligated to help the people in the service. I mean, God, these guys don't get anything. Who takes pictures of the B-2? They're not supposed to be taking pictures of. And these guys are still young guys that this is what they do. They're proud of what they do. And they're going to end that. They're going to go on to other things. And it means a lot. And then the people on the ground, I still get them this year. I still get every year they call me and just to give their story of why they want the picture. And it's a great feeling.
Yeah. That's gotta be an incredible feeling, right? I mean, it's something that I think all artists want recognition of some sort, right? Like that's not a secret, and it's not something that should be shied away from, right? Like we don't, yes, we perform these artistic acts, for our own internal reasons, and we feel called to do this, or we've developed skill to do this, and so we want to do it as well as we can, and we do it for our own internal reasons. But that extrinsic value, right, of that recognition is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, especially take yourself back to that ceremony you were talking about, right? Like, it sounds to me like you placed yourself in the proper context, right? Of like, wow, okay, I am one of lots and lots and lots of people who've taken photos, and I'm getting this recognition. And even with these other folks that who I'm being recognized with, they took different kinds of pictures in different kinds of places for different kinds
Right.
of reasons, right? But they're all meaningful in these different and very specific ways.
No, that's true. That's true. I just losing my thought. Taking the picture, it's the challenge. It's also,
Mm.
the thing I love about aerial photography is my tripod is my airplane. So I don't just sit there. Like, I wouldn't want to do it from a helicopter, just stop, and not that it would be a slam dunk at that at all. But I don't like taking pictures out of helicopter. I like flying and taking pictures and putting the plane where I want it to be to take the picture I want. Now, I always have another pilot with me, and he's holding the plane when I get there, but he can't see the picture. He can't line up the shot that I want. So it's that challenge that's part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that is the game,
Actually,
right? Like we're not going to do things that aren't challenging. The things that aren't challenging aren't as meaningful.
right.
So what is your process for this, and how has that process evolved since 2009? You mentioned having a second pilot with you. Now, did you have the second pilot with you in 2009?
Yes.
When you, how is your approach adjusted? Right? How have the challenges either increased or decreased based on your experience now doing this for going on almost 20 years?
The challenges are still there. There's a lot more. The pilot I depend on for safety now that I wasn't even thinking about back then. You get older and and airspace gets busier and things. You want everything to be safe to start with, so looking out for other airplanes. I've always been in jazz, so improvisation's always been my life is improvisation. I'll just jump at something stupidly, probably most of the time, but try something different. To do the same thing every day is not something that I can do. I'll change it anyway. So that part, and then there's the last so many years I was thinking of that visualization. I do a lot of the 2 to 3 days before. I can close my eyes and I can visualize where I want to be and where I want the plane to be. And I just it's not even that something consciously, subconsciously I do that. So I'm trying to visualize what I want and where I want to be, and it kind of lines me up. And once I get over the site, I kind of zone out. Then I'm looking for what I want and where I want, and it just ties in. But it's kind of cool thing that I don't do that with anything else.
I love that. I love that you're, something, this podcast is geared, primarily towards equipping military service members and veterans who are transitioning from service to civilian with skills, right? With the practical skills of how can I take the skills and experiences that I developed in service and apply them in life and at work as a civilian. And I think latching onto something you just talked about, you're pulling from your experience in jazz. I was watching as you were speaking, right? You were like, well, I'm a jazz musician, so I'm comfortable making things up on the fly, right? Going with the flow of things and visualizing what I want to see or what I want to hear or whatever it is, and then just getting into the zone and doing
Exactly.
it, right? And that idea of pulling from all these different experiences that we have into one particular task or one particular set of tasks, I think is something that everybody can do. You don't have to be a jazz musician to do that. You just have to find out what's that anchor point for you that you can then apply in this one area of life and pull it over into this other area of life to make yourself, more comfortable in the good sense to then perform whatever it is that you're trying to perform.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of pictures. I do this all the time. It's not for the flyovers as much, but you start taking a picture and you crop it, set it up the way you like, and then you just go, okay, delete it and start all over again and see a different way. Just to see, you got to push yourself. It's always about pushing yourself, not doing the exactly same thing every day. And experience is what you're based on. It's all about that. It changes your vision.
So can you walk us through the technical aspects of this? So what do you do that morning, and then what are you doing throughout the day, and then just walk us through how you capture these photos on that day.
I make sure the airplane's ready to go a day before too, and fuel. I call up and get my talking with the Pasadena police and their outfit there. And then I also I send in papers to the FAA TRACON. And so everybody knows where I'm going to be, and I sort of know, and they give me a special discrete code to use. And then I get up there on top waiting, because you get there. First of all, I'm going to get there a half hour early anyway to take pictures of the band and all that stuff. And I'm circling around and I'm letting them, everybody knows where everybody is on the professional end of this. And I'm just kind of waiting, it's kind of like you're waiting for the mouse to get the trap, and you're just waiting, and pretty soon they're saying, it's going to be 4 minutes to go. So I've got wide circles and I start narrowing it in, because I know in a football stadium where the shot I want is going to be, and where I don't want to be with that shot. If I can help myself. So there are areas that I don't want to be. When it gets really close, I start cutting them a little quicker to get out of that area that's not going to give me the shot I want. And that helps a lot with that. And then you're waiting, where are they type of thing. Usually it's the end of the Star Spangled Banner. The fireworks go off, the flag is unfurled, if they have that, and then you're waiting, and it just happens so fast. And it's not what the picture looks like. It's just like it's like a bird flying through, quiet. There's no noise. There's nothing. It's just there and gone. 2 seconds crossover of the bowl. And if you can pick them up, luckily we sometimes can get them 5 seconds before that. I just did a baseball one. It was 2 seconds before. You got to find them. The B2 is better than, because I've done the F-18s. and they're harder to see. But again, it's not like there's noise coming. You hear them coming. You don't hear anything. It's just something flying over real quick.
What does it feel like? You mentioned being in the zone earlier when you're doing this, but what does it feel like as you're doing this for you?
I start getting real relaxed because there's no tension now. It's tension on my feet kicking the rudders and stuff like that to move the plane a little bit, but it's kind of a relaxed waiting for this thing. And I've already figured out I'm going to get it or I'm not going to get it. You can only do so much. So if I get in my position and hold my position as long as I can. If we can see them, I can adjust a little bit. But basically, I'm flying this way. I turn, no visual of them at all. And if I turned right, I'll pick him up after he comes under the plane. So but it's real relaxed at that point. I've done everything I can do. And it's just, I hope he's there and I hope I'm there at the same time. I mean, it sounds kind of funny, but that's really what it is.
Yeah. No, it's art, right? Like you have to have that aspect of it, right? If there's no risk that it's not going to happen, then it just automatically happens, and then it's not as beautiful as it could be. So you know what his flight path is, and then you know what your flight path is, and that's what you're relying on that
Yep.
data to get the flight path.
And
at the
to
right
make
time.
it worse, if he's not over the center of the stadium, and B2 is, they don't have the best visibility of those things to fly over the middle of the stadium. If he's off a little bit and I'm off a little bit, he can look like he's out of the stadium. It's an angle you got to worry about. So I try to get pretty vertical, close, and I'm hoping he's on, but it's difficult. They don't even have that sophisticated equipment in those things as far as GPS as they have, but not like other planes are nowadays. These are older planes.
It's an older airframe. My audience knows I worked on the F-15, E model there, which is, an older airframe in its own right. But more modernized for certain missions that it performs that bombers don't. But no, I have friends who work on the F-22 and work on the F-35 and, work on these drones and the what's fascinating about the Air Force and when you work in aviation, whether you're a ground crew or air crew, is the span of time that these airframes have been in service is remarkable. And so, you talk about what that airframe is and isn't equipped with. I worked with guys and gals that worked on all of these different airframes, and you go from B2s to B52s to B1s to F-15s to A-10s to F-35s and F-22s. You're talking about a wide breadth of knowledge across, more modern technology and older technology as well.
Yeah, planes are old. I don't know what that 35 would be like. I mean, that's probably much more sophisticated and totally. But these things still are going and they're still doing their job.
Yeah. So at what point do you pass off controls to the co-pilot for you to take the photo? And how are you taking the photo? I mean, do you bank and take the photo through the window? I mean, I don't know much about Cessnas at all. So, treat me like I'm a 5-year-old here. Like, how do you, so you maneuver yourself into position, hope to catch him in the position over the stadium and to shoot the photo as if he's over the stadium, right? And not to make it look like he's not. But how are you actually taking that photo? When do you pass off those controls? How do those 2 seconds work?
Well, first of all, the window, there's a latch on most Cessna windows. I took it off. So the window opens up all the way. And the Airstream holds it. You never have to worry about that. Well, pretty much never.
Cool.
But I start circling, and I've done this with guys that I haven't flown with much. But I start talking to them, and I'm starting to tell them, okay, we're starting to steepen the bank, and then I'm usually using the rudders because the rudders do this, and I can control a lot with the rudder, and if it'll even raise one side of the wing and drop it a little bit. So I have them holding it. I just say, okay, hold it there, hold it there, hold it there. Then if I need to, I'll pull the stick over a little bit to get my picture because they don't see it. It's as long as they're light on the controls and they let me override them if I need to. But if we set it up and we just
Yeah.
hold this bank, as you know, that was in the morning. I just hold this. We got it right now. Let's wait for him to get there. But we got a good circle on this. And then I didn't have to do that much with touching the controls. But I don't know.
And
They
so,
asked me if you ask me, you know, what bank was I at? I don't know. I'm not looking at the bank. I'm looking at it. Again, it's like a fighter pilot. You know, you're looking at the person you want to shoot, take a picture of. You're not really looking at what's up
right.
and what's down. I'm not doing that extreme, but is it a 10-degree bank or a 40-degree bank? You know, I don't, not thinking of it.
You're just up there executing the mission.
Exactly. And it's only, like I said, it's a 2-second mission. So I usually give myself a little extra altitude, because if I need to let the wing drop a little bit, you know, you don't want to stall an airplane, of course, but if I need to let it drop for 2 seconds, how far is it going to drop? You know, but you just let it go. Otherwise, you're fighting gravity too.
Oh man, that's so cool. I love it. So I mean, I want to hear more about your relationship with the squadron at Whiteman. With the wing at Whiteman. Like, how did you said you sent some emails and sent some photos off to these folks, and then were able to visit. How did that relationship develop, and how has it flourished over the years? You've obviously gotten to know some of these guys pretty well and talked to them throughout the year. But talk to me about that visit to Whiteman and how that came about.
I sent it out to the base because I didn't know who to send it to at the beginning, and they sent it out, and then I got invited to come for a tour of the base. And there's something I'm not going to miss, you know. And they spent a whole day with the pilot who flew with me and me. They showed us around and let me fly the simulator. And I started meeting some of the guys there.
How many years after that? 2009 was this?
Probably around 2015. So it was a few years later, but
Cool.
I was talking to the next thing the pilots thanked me for the picture. And then their parents thanked me. And then the other guys, and then I wanted to send it, the mechanics wanted it. You know, the guys like you, the guys working on the plane, they wanted that picture. It's a team
Of
thing.
course.
It's not just the pilot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the next year, they called me and let me know when it was or who's, you know, they try to let me know the time and all this stuff, even though I can find that out here. It just slowly developed. You know, you start talking to him a little bit, and you find out now this guy's retired. Now he's off to the airlines or something, but there's a new guy in there, and their energy for it is something. You know, it's something special that they don't get to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the back to recognition, right? But on that side, right? Like these guys and gals that are flying and working on this airframe get the opportunity to be recognized through this photo and in a very cool and poignant way. What was it like flying in the simulator? What was the visit like?
It made me feel like I should be in a Cessna, not one of those.
Yeah.
It was a big airplane, I'm not used to that at all. I don't have any time in anything bigger than what I fly, and I got a lot of hours what I have. Uh, but they were helping me with it, and we sat down and talking through the whole thing. It felt like they were treating me the way I felt I should be treating them. You know, these are the elite there. I'm just a photographer flying a Cessna, you know, but they treated me very special. And it's a couple of bases I've been at. It's been kind of alarming in a lot of ways. It's like, wow, I didn't think I did anything but take a picture. So it was the respect I got there, and it was kind of, wow, this is unexpected for me. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah, that's a very cool experience. Um, so in terms of obviously you do aerial photography in general. You're not specific to sporting events. You're not specific to the Rose Bowl. You do this quite a bit. You've mentioned some other airframes. What are some other stadiums that you've captured this at? Some other airframes, and any other cool stories from particular sporting events that have that hold any weight in your mind and
Well, I'll
heart?
get off a little bit what I do every year is I'll send the pictures out to the pilots. I was just thinking of this when you mentioned it, and
Yeah.
and then I send one extra one for them to sign it and send it back to me. 2011, the TCU game, F-18s, I caught it really well. It made Sports Illustrated and all this. I sent it to the pilots. Well, all of them uh, were on the ships. They were all overseas. So they signed it on the ship and it got wet. No, that's
Oh,
the best thing. The story I have, this thing was sent to them to sign on an aircraft carrier. And you can see the water damage on it because however, I thought that was the coolest thing. That's probably my favorite picture because of that.
that's incredible. So it got sent back to you. You have it. It just how
Not,
damaged is it? Where does
no,
it sit
it's got water
in your?
damage around the side a little bit. Nothing terrible, but it's just the whole thing. It's the idea of that. And then, but as far as other things I have shot, well, I shoot every year when I shoot the Rose Bowl game, I shoot the Rose Bowl Rose Bowl parade. Because there's two
Mhm.
B2s coming out there, and each one gets one. One gets the parade, and one gets the game. And I get up early in the morning to get that for the pilot because they're coming out here too. They just lost the flip and got the parade set of the game.
Right. I was gonna say, are they
I
fighting over how do they determine who gets the game and who
I
gets
don't
the
know,
parade?
but I figured why don't they just both fly over both of them, and then they can get it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I'm sure they make training sorties out of it. I think you had mentioned that they fly up to Washington State and probably do some training sorties on
yeah,
that
we
day
hear
as
a lot
well.
of stuff comes on. Why are they doing it? What a waste of money. It's a training mission. Is there a fun thing for them? I guess I don't know if it's fun, but it's something special. But they have to fly 3 hours to hit a target at 8:04 in the morning or 2:10 in the afternoon. And they came and they're not stopping. They're not, refueling. Then they go somewhere and come back and they have to hit this spot. I mean, that's got to be training as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And listen, and back to what we opened the conversation with, like there's value in this from an American standpoint, right? Like this is representative of who we are and what we do on the military side and who we are and what we do on the civilian side as participants in this great American tradition.
Right. And people like it. It is, oh, is it to get people to enlist? Probably is. But it's also showing our our military. This is showing it. It's something our planes flying over to show everybody this is what we got. You know,
Yeah.
it's the B2s are a deterrent. That's what they're for. They're not to go in and blow up the world. They're a deterrent. If you have them, you won't use them type of thing, hopefully.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's it. Then you were saying about different ones I've shot. Well, I shoot the parade. I also, I've been over like San Diego doing some work, my real estate or whatever work I was doing. And I heard there was a flyover. So I'll just stay around and wait for the flyover. And I've caught that one before. Uh, I caught this year, I got hired by the 49ers. I've never had this before to fly up to San Francisco and shoot their playoff game, the flyover. So I guess my reputation's getting out there. But that's the first time somebody ever hired me to do it. And then talk about, is the weather going to be good? Are they going to be, am I going to catch them? And all this stuff. It gets a little tension there, but we ended up getting it. And then
I love
this year was pretty cool. Just before the election, the whole world is really tense. They had the flyover of the first game of the World Series at Dodger Stadium. And I went to get that.
it.
I wanted to get pictures of the stadium and get the flyover. And Dodger Stadium, well, shooting a baseball stadium is set up differently than shooting a football stadium. One's round, where do you want to catch them? Again, it's always where do I want that picture? It's not just shooting blindly. Uh, and I get there, I start circling around. Like I said with the football games, the Star Spangled Banner is going to end, the flag's out, the fireworks go off, and there's no plane. And nobody's talking on this one because it's different than the Rose Bowl. And I'm waiting, going, I know he's coming. And we're circling. I'm going down, getting kind of worried. I don't want to miss it. And I'm circling and circling. They had a Valenzuela. memorials, so they kept the fireworks going longer. And we didn't know about that because this was kind of just a quick thing we wanted to do. And then finally I see him, and I'm not usually the first one to see him. Usually my co-pilot or my son's in the back of some of these too. We'll see him. I saw him just outside the police academy, which is like under 2 seconds before they hit the stadium. And I'm looking, I finally see him, and I start looking through the camera. Once I see him, I got that camera locked on him, and I'm kicking my rudders, but I'm not touching the controls at that point unless I have to. And I'm looking at him going, damn, they're coming right over the middle of the stadium, which means I'm in the right spot. And I caught him, and it almost looks like they mirrored first, second, and third base. And home plate, those four of them came right over. And it was one of those things, because of just before the election, the tension in the country. It was the one thing that people kind of calmed down and said, that's the American, that's our government, our military. So it happened at a good time.
It's great, but I mean, yeah, I mean, you're up there, doing what you do, right? You know that they're coming, and you're relaxed, like you were describing earlier, and you're like, I'm gonna catch them in this lens, and I know I'm gonna get them, and you capture that moment. Did you feel the weight of that in the moment as you caught the photo, or I mean, it's probably happening so fast as you went back and looked. I mean, are you looking at selects? I mean, how many do you shoot at a time? You're not. Are you shooting one photo each time? It's just like you only have the one shot to get it.
No,
or what
I'll do if I catch him in the stadium, I'll do a burst in the stadium because it's only, like I said, 2 seconds or maybe a second. How many can you get off? Right. And then the reason I'm doing this football stadium like that is if I can get him in the stadium, I don't want him to cover one of the names of the schools. You've got universities on both sides. They want to see it, so I'm trying to get him in between everything. So this year I caught him on the stands, which it turned out really nice. It was a good catch for me. And it wasn't blocking anything, but it was still in the stadium, and you get the whole feel of it. And it looks so big when you look at the picture. He's just right over the stadium and so big. But when it really happens, it's like this small little, you've probably seen the videos. My son videotapes some of them, and it's so fast. It doesn't look like it's the same thing. But when you stop it, it becomes powerful.
Yeah. So when you land and you get back home and you're looking through your selects, like that's when you really see the photo that you captured.
Now I can look when I took the picture, I can usually tell I got them somewhere in there. Then I quick look and see, more for curiosity because there's nothing I can do about it at that point.
Sure. Yeah.
And we look around. This time I just handed it back to my son, said, look at it and see. I think I got it. You always think is about the best you can get, except for the Dodger game. That one I looked, I go, oh my God, he's right where I want him to be, and I'm right where I want to be. But that's not usual.
Oh man, that's a cool feeling then that you had that opportunity for that game, having done it this way, where you're not sure, but you've haven't done that. I'm not that bad at math. Publicly, I said almost 20 years earlier. I know
2009. 15 years.
But 15 years, right? So 15 years of mostly kind of hoping you capture what you need and looking at it later, and that for that Dodger Stadium when you got to see, oh hell yeah,
that one I was definite. I looked and got it.
So as you look at
the other one I remember is the TCU game with the 4 F-18s. They were doing the parachute, the leap frogs.
Probably the Navy SEALs.
Parachute
team.
They jumped out of a C-130, so they had me higher up. But I looked over, and just timing, I looked over and I see the guys holding on the back of the C-130, letting go, and I got pictures of that. Just like you don't see that all the time.
Yeah, so cool. So as you look back over the last 15 years, and you see all of these photos that you've captured, take yourself back to 2009, having done this the first time. Like, what does it feel like now as an aviator, as a photographer, as an artist, as an American, to look back at this bank of photos that you have in these very particular instances of Americana? What does it feel like?
My growth, there was a big growth for me and it's not a game, it's especially for these things, it's something special that I take it special. It's there's been a big, I wasn't haphazard back at the beginning, but now I'm going with a purpose and a reason for the purpose. And it's not just to sell prints, it's to the pilots and to people to see the enjoyment or something, the memorialism, whatever you want to call it, for the people who buy the prints or even look at the prints. We get a lot just, on social, this print is incredible for this reason. It's the reasons you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, individually as an artist, right? Like, I love what you just said, like that you've noticed that you've gotten better. It doesn't mean that you were bad in 2009, but you are a practitioner of a skill, right? Like, you have experience and you're using your skills over and over and over again, and you're noticing yourself getting better. And I would imagine hoping to continue to get better, but both things can exist, right? Like, the photo from 2009 can be beautiful, and the photo from 2025 can be, however, technically or even subjectively in your own mind, better than that first one.
Yeah, and mindset wise, from the first one to the last one, there's a whole different mindset. I'm going in blindly on the first one. In the end, I'm just feeling this is what I want, and I'm happy that I did what I was trying to get. Where the first one was just, I don't know what I was going for. So
I guess over the 15 years, how long did it take for you to get into that relaxed state that you're in now as you do it? Like, talk more about that mindset shift.
Last few years, 4 years, something like that, where it just, I see myself going, 2-3 days before I'm starting to kind of tense up a little bit and start to focus on, and then I'm starting to see it, what am I expecting to see? And then I can close my eyes and see that, because I've done it enough. I know what I'm going to see. And then well, do I want to be here on the field or want to be on this side? It's all stuff you just go through. And then once you're there, you have options. Can I catch it on this side? Yes. Can I catch it on this side? Yes. Can I catch it here? Only if I'm at this stage. So you have all these in the back of your mind. So then when it happens, you don't freak out, say, oh, I missed it, type of thing. It's like, I can catch it differently. There is no one way to do it.
Is that one of the things that keeps you going on this? Those little micro challenges within this larger challenge?
Yeah. And they are micro challenges, because I wanted to say, do I want to risk it to get this one shot that would be kind of cool? But if I don't get it, and it would only be cool to me, people like to see themselves in the stadium too. That's me. I'm sitting in that little dot over there.
Yep.
So
Right.
I take that into consideration. And you only get one chance, and then 365 days later, you get to do it again, possibly, if the weather's good and everything else.
Right. Thankfully, most of the time the weather is good in Southern California, so
We lost a
you're having
couple
a
of
good.
times with weather, a couple of times with malfunctions on an Oregon game where everything just went wrong on their side. They were doing an American flag and it didn't make it to the field, and timing was off. And then one of the guys, one B2 Palmer, was a little off. And then I'm off a little bit. And, like I said, that can change everything.
Yeah. So what did you do in those instances? You just didn't get the photos?
No, I get the other photos. I'll put those out there. I'll send them to the pilots if I can get a good shot of them, because it's still theirs. They're the pilot.
Yeah.
There's also just a plain stadium with everybody in it, with the band spelling out. The perfect one is this year I've been selling the Ohio with the script.
Yeah. Oh, script
And that,
Ohio.
to me,
Yeah.
that's the best thing right there. So actually, those become harder to get than the flyovers sometimes, because you got to get in a position, to make it look good right in the center of the stadium. And if they're not holding it long enough and I'm in the wrong position, I'm trying to rush to get one side or the other side to get it. And I'm going, I said that to my son and the other pilot this year. I go, this is harder than the flyover. They got the O in the middle, and at the time you get there, they're already moving to the next.
Yeah. It's cool in the stadium here in Columbus, and whoever is announcing or emceeing it at any other stadium that our band goes to. It's called the Incomparable Script Ohio, right? Like it is. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful sights and experiences subjectively for me. I've been blessed to see that in person multiple times, here in Columbus, and I've seen it at some away games and some bowl games that I've been lucky to go to over the years. It is a beautiful thing to see in the stadium, and it's a stunning thing to see from. How many thousand feet are you above the stadium as you're taking these photos?
About 3,000, 3,500. So it looks, and it's so smooth, and they're doing it upside. They're mirroring each other. It is like, I look forward to that, because some of them just spell it O, or W or an M, whatever. But this is good.
Yeah, it is a particularly special thing in the state of Ohio and in the Ohio State community. How I want to be respectful of your time here and start to wrap things up. How do these photos that you catch at the flyovers and the stadiums, do you bring any of those skills and experiences to your real estate work? Is there anything you've learned on these missions, so to speak, that you apply to the rest of your work, or is it more like jazz? I mean, you're just you're doing each one as it comes and doing what
but I push the envelope a lot. Even if I'm taking something, I'll go, that would look really good if I take it from this angle or something. I'm always doing that. Yeah, but it is pretty much improvisation. I'll circle around and take pictures of, one of my clients is the SoFi Stadium during the whole building of it and the Inuit domes. And I'm just, you get the normal pictures, but then you're always taking something. Let's see what this looks like. Because that's the fun part, you got to give them the pictures that need to be shot, but then you can play with them.
Right. We do that on set, right? Like I'm a filmmaker by trade, and we produce and we direct TV commercials a lot, right? And that's what you do. You schedule your day with enough time to get what you need, right. And then you have a little bit of fun, right? You're like, okay, we've accomplished everything that's in the script. We've gotten everything that we need. We've got a little bit of extra time in this setup. What can we play with? What can we have fun with, right? And those are the things that bring us back every day, right? I don't know if you play golf. My wife played golf in college at University of Mississippi, and there's the old adage in golf, right? All it takes is one shot, right? One good shot is what's going to bring you back to the course the next time. I don't have very many good shots, but she does. But like that analogy, I think plays here, right? Where you're like these little moments that I get to play. I've developed the craft. I have the skills. I have the experiences. We've done what we need to do. Let's have a little fun. Let's play. Let's do something that wants to bring us back to set or bring us back to this opportunity.
And you grow from that, though. You grow from that little thing you tried. And sometimes you say, no, it didn't work. And you're saying, well, it didn't work, but it kind of did. And now let me look at it a little bit more. And next time you try something a little different, it gets back in improvisation. Yeah. It's always you don't want to do the same thing every day without pushing the envelope a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Because then it's just pop. Then it's just pop music. Yeah.
Good.
I love it. Well, Mark, listen, I deeply appreciate your time. Appreciate you accepting the outreach here and coming on the show and talking about this. Pretty special for me, actually, having not known you a week ago. And now here we get to have a conversation that blends a lot of things from my personal and family history and community history in the Air Force and here at Ohio State and in the state of Ohio and the Rose Bowl and aviation and trumpets and all of these good things. I appreciate what you do and appreciate you coming on and telling your story. Where can folks find you? Where can folks find your work? Where would you like to drive some traffic?
Photopilot.com is probably the best one, or markholtzman.com. Both of them. Photopilot.com is our major website. You can see from there. And I have markholtzman.com. The front page has all the flyovers. Needs some editing, but you can see all that. And you can go delve into that with just clicking on a picture.
I love it. And it's West Coast Aerial Photography on X and on
I believe
on Instagram.
So. Yeah, my son
right?
does all that stuff, so I don't. But yeah, that's on.
Okay.
And we're
Great.
always, like I said,
Great.
I was up over the fires yesterday. I love seeing things from above. It gives you a whole different idea how small you are, but how impressive things are from above. It's just a great view.
Yeah. Yes. That's beautiful. I end each episode of the podcast with an open-ended question that is primarily geared towards the military and veteran community. I'm going to ask you the question and feel free to answer it from whichever perspective that you would like. I'll ask it more slowly than I normally do so that you have some time to think about it. But I ask each veteran that comes on the show, what's on your heart and your mind for our community right now? It could be a piece of advice, something you want to get off your chest, or something you want to reiterate that we've talked about today. But Mark, what's on your heart? What's on your mind, either from a photography, artistic, business, entrepreneur, American perspective? What's on your heart? What's on your mind?
From an American perspective, there's a lot of, I want to say hate out there. There's a lot of, what the good word is for this. There's a lot of conflict in our country. And I think not just in our country, I think in the world right now for lots of different reasons. And it doesn't need to be, as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't help anything. Conflicts, I'm better than you, I'm richer than you. It doesn't do anything. Everybody's should be just as important, whether they've got a job doing one end of the spectrum or a job doing the other end. They're all people. They all have families. They all want to have a good life. I'm hoping. I mean, that's what I would think. The basic necessities. I hope I'm not going off target with what you're saying, but
No.
I just don't understand. And hopefully it's just a time that will resolve itself and get back into a more reasonable, just because difference isn't bad. Difference is not bad.
Yeah. We've got to do it together, right? Like we can sometimes we can use that conflict to understand different perspectives and to understand how to bridge the gap between those perspectives, so that we can come together and work together to continue to build our society and to build our culture and move it in a direction that we all want to see it going and that benefits.
And what's kind of nice right now, in a terrible way, the fires, people are helping each other. That's nice. That's a good thing.
Look for the helpers.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Mark, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Safe travels. I know you're traveling overseas to go see some family. So safe travels and let's keep in touch.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. So take care.
Absolutely.
Okay.
My pleasure.
Bye.
All right.